Hello, today's video is called Switch number 2. Today is April 23rd, 2023. The agenda for today's background: TV shows, sports, royalty, and famous people and politicians. In the past, I have done a video called What is a Switch? And it's loaded a long time ago, a year ago. And that was actually the copy of another video that was banned by my first channel on YouTube. This is a term I use to avoid censorship and talk about hidden gender inversion that has been happening in front of our eyes for many decades without us being fully aware. This video is done because there was a comment in one of my videos asking for a little bit of an expansion on the topic. So in that original video, I talk about the fact that the rationale of this is that it exists because in order to become rich, famous, and powerful, you must adhere to a specific religion. That is this religion. I'm not going to say certain words to avoid, again, censorship. And in this religion, you have to merge the two genders in one. In that video, I use this visual. It's extremely powerful because it helps us to understand overall the proportions and the science between the two different genders. But overall, I think it's very important that we use the energy that the person is emanating. So in this video, I explained the different proportions, and I'm going to do a list slowly about what I'm going to talk about. But perhaps the most important is the one that I'm showing, that is the proportion between the shoulders and the hips, that in the man is going to be obviously not a line, and in the women is going to be a line. Also here, there is a line that is completely straight, and here you see the infamous hourglass figure. We're going to talk about skull shape, shoulder shape. You can see here that is more square, and here is more inclined. We're going to see some visuals later in the video as well. The arm length is very important. The torso versus the legs proportion. You can see here how elongated the torso is and how short this is. The forearm versus the whole arm proportion. The femur rotation here is going to be more straight in the male and more inclined to the center in the female. Again, we're going to see more visuals about this. The shoulder to hip proportion that I already addressed. The belly button location. Also, you can see here how this is more aligned with what would be the waist, and here is a little bit below it. And we have the knee appearance is going to be more soft in a female, more harsh in a male. The hourglass figure that I already spoke about, the hand size, the feet size, the space between the legs when the male is walking is evident, when the female is walking is going to be more close. The eye separation, again, we're going to see more visuals. The collarbone inclination or the absence of it in a male is going to be more straight. In a female, it's going to be inclined and it's going to find its center, obviously, more lower than in the male, and the size of the mouth. So one very important learning that I've had after I did my previous video is about the walk and the stairs. I'm not an expert on this topic, so I'm going to give you some examples of people you can follow so you can expand your knowledge. And the walk in a female, it completely closes the space, and females put one foot in front of the other one. Males tend to open because, again, these hips are more narrow and these are more wide because a woman, she may choose not to have kids, but they are designed, their bodies, to expand on the hips to allow the baby to be born, while men don't need that. So you can see here the proportions, and here you can see how it's more wide on the shoulders and very narrow in the hips. And also the infamous stair test. And you can see again the female is going to close the knees when it's going downstairs, and then in the male is going to open. So there is an extremely powerful person in Twitter called the Son of Man, and he consistently shows us this specific difference in what he calls the gait and also the structure of the skull. Very important about the collarbone that I was talking about. In the female is going to come down, and in the male is going to be more straight. The finger ratio, here is a female, here is a male. You can see here how this is more aligned, and this is going to be more elongated than the index. So I'm going to remove the lines again so you can see it. And very important to notice that this is not about one thing. You have to go after many things, because we are not perfect, so we may have certain features that are a little bit confusing, but when you find more than one, as well as the symbolism, now we start to be a little bit more suspicious. This is an old painting from the 1800s, and you can see how back in time it goes. This is the infamous Mason sign, and here you can see the position of the hands in all models, and that is always a very odd way of walking and posing, and if you try to do it, it feels very artificial. So clearly it's a symbol. This one very famous, many people have talked about it in their channels. This one also, and obviously the infamous hiding of one eye. Here, very disturbing. You can actually do a Google search, find this small kid already doing these really negative signs. These type of signs are very disturbing, and obviously you have seen online as well the infamous Black Eye Club. There are many theories as to what this might be. A lot of famous people show these, and I don't want to get into that because I don't know what it is, but the few articles that I have read about it talk about invasion of other entities inside of the body. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it's really odd. Key resources. In the past, I started to do this research in 2018. It used to be a fantastic channel called Mary Forrest. She was in Australia, but she was banned. And one channel that I also used to start looking into was Mr. E. He's amazing, and he still has some availability on Rumble and the old YouTube. So the other option is to do your own research. If you do FDM MTF, you're going to see a lot of interesting channels, and keywords are going to be this one. I don't want to say it just to avoid problems, and this one. So you want to see how going back in time, they are hidden, as they say, in plain sight. So what I want to do today is explore different avenues and to see. One of the shows that I really like a lot is The Voice, and I watch across the world different shows of this gender, and then slowly I started to notice the symbolism not only in the logo that we're going to see, but also in the judges and sometimes even in the contestants. So this V that you see here is not V as in victory, but is two genders. And then the other thing that I noticed is that the shadows might also have some meaning. I really didn't get too deep into that, but there's no way the light would create these odd shapes in this hand. Now, these are images from The Voice Norway. Let's look at the shoulder length and the overall structure. This is supposed to be a female, but you can see the elongated and so very structured shoulders, as well as the length of the neck, separation of the eyes, and most importantly, the strength of the eyes. When you look at, quote, the look of the eyes, you should feel something, and there's no warmth in these eyes, in my opinion. And also, as I was talking about, the ratio here is supposed to be a male. You can see how here the shoulder is collapsing. You can see how this is artificial because there's nothing to be feeling. So this is a male, this is a female, and here you can see this is shorter than the index. So we're confirming apparently from two different signs that is a female. The same here, look at the structure of the skull, it's a little bit more elongated, and the eye separation is almost non-existent, and overall again the eyes are very soft. This is supposed to be the presentator, but you can see again the collarbone very straight, the size of the skull feels very, very big. Also the neck is very wide, and the way the arms are falling along the body is very straight, which is really very male. And obviously, once again, the eyes are very strong. You can see here is the link if you want to see a specific video. Now let's talk about The Voice USA, because this is where I started watching The Voice itself. And in the beginning, I used to really like her, and I thought she was very pretty. And then I started to get into this, to the NT18 that I was mentioning, into understanding that everyone who's famous, etc., is inverted. And when you start to go deeper into the images of this entity, I don't even know how to call these except entities, just very masculine. It's not really very feminine at all. You can see the structure is very muscular, very straight on the shoulders. Look at the amount of muscles this person has. Actually, this picture is a little bit disturbing. You don't even know what you're looking at there. And here you can see how straight the shoulders are. So once again, this is clearly not a female. Here, what is interesting about the voice is that the light is coming from the top. So you have a very clear access to understand the bone structure. You can see here the brow bridge, very, very male, very strong. And then you look at this body. It's just, look at the length of these arms, the size of the skull, width of the neck. It's just, I've never seen a female like that. And when you see this type of poses, always remember that they're trying to look for an alignment, at least on one of the sides, because clearly in the other one, you don't do it. So when you see a female, again, it's going to be a lot more aligned both sides. One thing that I always look for is when they're hiding this area, and you will see a lot of artists, quote artists, that do this, and the objective is to hide any type of scars from removals of either Adam's apple or implantation in the cases when they want to invert females into males. But here it doesn't matter what you're doing. The advantage with females is that they have a lot of strapless outfit. So you can see here the line that is completely straight. Another thing that I noticed that they do a lot is that they confuse us with a lot of odd shapes in clothing. This thing again, the neck, the hair is typically hiding things. So you're going to see things that are going to, in my case, set all alarms into something is being hidden here. Another thing that I noticed specifically for this Voice USA is that this entity that once was supposed to be the most handsome or sexy man in the planet, I actually addressed these female parts in my previous video, the switch. But what I noticed also in the program is that he's very soft. He gets into certain moves that are not very male in nature. And then when you look at the digit ratio, once again, this is shorter than the index. So you're looking at a female. Same here with the infamous Blake, same situation. So again, try to look at it from more than one characteristic. So I'm just throwing you a lot of individual things, but only one characteristic is not enough to say, okay, that is a female or a male. I'm going to show you some visuals of different postings that I have done on Twitter in the past year. So I'm not going to read everything for obvious reasons, but you can stop the screen and read them if you have the time. And bottom line is that you can see that this so-called American Idol, even from audition, you have already selected inverted people. Through the process, they start to become a little bit more deviant and evident, and then after full implementation, you can continue seeing the proportions, the digit, and the indentation in the waist, which obviously do not exist in males. Another program that I used to like, I still like it, but I am watching it differently now, is called Selling Sunset. So you can see again, stop the screen, you can read all my comments. So you're going to see the size of the skulls, the lack of alignment between the shoulders and the hips, and the straight collarbone. And most importantly, when you compare with the ones that are supposed to be males versus the ones that are supposed to be females, and clearly something is odd. Very important to see also where the hand lands. Look at the length of these arms, just not very female, as you can see. And then here more from the same program. One program that I really like because it has taught me a lot about contracts and a lot about even lying, it's Judge Judy. I love the line that says that if it doesn't ring a bell of truth, it's not logical, and then it's a lie. So she's really interesting. So it was very hard for me to realize that, okay, the digit ratio is not there. These are some symbolic things. You can see obviously the Adam's apple, but most importantly, once again, the walk. When you see this space between the legs and you don't put one in front of the next one, well, clearly it's not going to be a female. Hallmark Random Movie. I take a lot of information from different sources because it's not only one thing you should look at. Here you can stop the screen, but once again, it's more of the same. Size of the skull. Look at the size of this hand. It's very, very big for a female. And obviously you can see the eye separation that is extremely wide if this would be a woman. You're going to notice in a lot of these videos, shows, and movies, the so-called ladies are going to have the long hair along the features just to try to distract a little bit more. Another thing that I watch is the Bling Empire. I love fashion and things like that, but if you stop the screen, you're going to start to notice that everyone is inverted, and one of the so-called richest entities in this Bling Empire is this woman that is called Anna, and then you can see how odd this is. I started to notice that I don't even know what that is. I don't know if it's a male or a female. Just independently, it is very, very odd. Another one that I watch is Made in Chelsea, and I wrote here, is it made in Chelsea or made in the lab? So once again, the eye separation, the masculine energy. Is very important that we start to look at the eyes and the projection of energy. So here versus here, this is supposed to be a male, but it has a lot of feminine energy coming out of those very closed eyes. So here you can see more of Made in Chelsea, and you see the digit of, the ratio of the digits. And also, once again, this is supposed to be a male. Look at the crossing of the legs. This is supposed to be a female. Look at the separation of the legs, and look at this collarbone, completely straight. So there is no doubt in my mind that this entity, because now I have 3 different features, well, that's a male. More from Made in Chelsea, and I have here a set of questions. Who has the softest eyes? Who has the eyes closer? Who has the softest chin? And who has the softest collarbone? So you can see here how this is very round and this is very harsh. But most importantly, look at the energy coming out of these eyes versus the energy coming out of these eyes. This one, as I said, is not even trying. This is supposed to be a woman. And then here again, look at the skull, very round here. And then here, very, very different, straight, and then falling down. This is also another interesting topic. If you look at how many so-called twins are in the business industry, is very odd. You can see here how many people are very similar. Here is the eye, and here's what I think they were playing with 2 genders. So it's just very odd. You can stop the screen, and I'm sure you can find more online. Then I did a section for sports. I once did a very deep dive in the Austin Matthews. So he is a player for the Leafs, and he's actually quite good. He's very important, sets a lot of records in terms of number of goals per year. And you can stop the screen and look at the amount of symbols that this entity has. So remember, in order for you to reach to the top and become famous, you have to do a lot of inversion and sacrifices. Here he's telling you he has 2 genders. Look at the pants. Here you can see once again the ratio between the shoulder and the hip. You can see there's a straight line. And you see here, this is a fan, but this is a male, and you can see how the lines are not aligned. Same here, look at the lines, and this is a male. He's not aligned because this is a male. One thing that is also interesting to look is the curve in the spine, because this is female, and definitely here, look at this, it's coming in. That's a female. It's crazy. And I watch hockey, and I have to forget about these things when I watch because it's really crazy. Formula One, I also like that. So once again, stop the screen, you can look at everything. This is a very important signal. That means it's a female. Here you can see the different walks, the digit ratio, and so on. More from Formula One. And then I want to talk about the so-called royalty, famous people. So this is very clear to me. Look again at the overall proportions, if there's alignment or not, the back completely straight, the digit ratio, the jawline. Here you can see Adam's apple. Here you can see digit ratio, the new generation. Look at this. How is this normal? How is this normal? Have you ever been around kids? They don't do these faces. Look at the eye separation on the so-called female. Look at this. Just like that. I've never seen a kid doing this. Look at this, for example. Here you can see the shoulder is wider than the hips. And then this entity is supposed to be pregnant. And then she does this. If you have ever seen a pregnant lady, this is impossible because the center of gravity has changed. She has a lot of weight here. There's no possibility that she's going to be this pregnant with these heels and be able to do that. Interesting also here, look at the bump. Look, when she's coming out, it's gone. That's not possible. So what they do is that they pretend they're pregnant with something called moon bumps. I explained that in my previous video. And a lot of Masonic symbols hiding the hand. From Monaco, we have, again, very elongated, straight collarbones. We want to look a little bit into this brand as well. Look at this. I used to believe she was so pretty, and then one day I realized, hold on a second, look at this jawline. Look at the eye separation. Look at the energy coming out of her, or him, I should say. Look at this structure of the body. And then this is the so-called brother of this entity. You can see the skull is tinier, it's more pear-shaped, and this is more square. And then when he got married to this lady, I thought, oh, they're such a nice couple. And then I realized, hold on a second. This is too straight. Look at Adam's apple. This is very straight. And there's no way a female would be so straight in the legs. And obviously, you can see here, it's not aligned. This is a male. Look at this. Look at this. Completely straight, very soft. And look at the eyes, and look at the softness in the eyes. This is a female, this is a male. It's incredible, it's everywhere. This family is one of the richest in Colombia. And then I was looking into this entity because she ended up marrying into this Monaco royalty family. Look at the different images that show the arm length. Also, this woman who was supposed to be very rich in the US ends up marrying a man from this family from Colombia, straight. Look at these arms. Which woman has this type of arms? Look at this. So what is interesting about these so-called rich people is that they use a lot of long dresses. So it's very tough to see sometimes the body types, and they do it obviously on purpose. But here you can still see. Look at the pear-shaped, very structured. And here at the size of the skull. And here you can see the digit ratio. And then some famous people here. Just feel the energy coming from this entity. Look at the length of this neck and overall eye separation. Just feel the energy. It's just very different. This is very soft, very strong. And even this, look at the collarbone falling and getting into the center. So male, male, female, female. This one is also very interesting. I used to think when I was younger that she was so sexy and so attractive. And then one day I was watching this Netflix video called Halftime. And then I was just more awake than before. You can see here, you stop the screen. And here is just incredible. If you watch the movie at minute 38.44, you got to see this male. This is a movie also called Forgetting Sarah Marshall. And then you see this man called man. But men don't have waists, right? And remember, we have to look at various indicators. Look at the fingers and look at the position of the legs when it walks once again. Male has this? No. Male has separation. So this is actually Katy Perry, believe it or not. And this is a man, this is a woman. Another entity that was very famous in the past, now still has some various shows, and is Paris Hilton. And she, did the runway show at Versace's, I think in the last 2 years, something like that. And when I saw that live, I thought, what an energy is coming out, and it's very male. And also you can see here the lack of alignment, and then in the after show you can see the digit ratio, you can see obviously the skull and the Adam's apple. And what is this? I don't know, what is that? Scary. Here is the wedding, collarbone completely straight. Look at the neck. Have you ever seen a woman with this type of neck? I've never seen that. Look at the skull. Look at the size of the hands. And once again, the male is just showing so many different signs and very feminine, soft energy. So the eyes are very important. Some politicians from Florida, at the time I wrote bursting another bubble, because I think that that's what I'm doing when I'm doing this type of analysis. And then you can see here the double sign that now we know it's I am two genders. And this one that is also Masonic symbols and the alignment between the hips and the shoulders, that means it is a female. Thank you very much for listening.